a few weeks ago when I said I loved the look of the DRZ? Well, that's not entirely true. That big rear fender with that huge boxy brake light is kind of an eyesore. So today I'm getting rid of it. I'm replacing it with the Savage Tidy Tail Fender Eliminator Kit that cost me a whopping $25 on eBay. Let me know if you've already done this to your bike or you plan to do this in the future in the comments down below. While you're down there, be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button if you like my content and want to see more, and ring that notification bell to find out when I release new videos. Now, let's get it installed and see how it looks. So, to take this guy off, you're gonna need a couple tools, obviously. It's held on by 10mm bolts and 8mm bolts. So you're gonna need a 10 and an 8mm socket. And in my case, because the seat has this rack added on here to those back bolts, I actually need a 5mm hex key to be able to pull those off. So the big reason why you're gonna wanna pull the seat off is because you wanna disconnect the wiring harness so you can pull everything cleanly off with the fender. And then we gotta do some electrical work once that's done. Wire the new tail light in and reattach the existing turn signals to the mount for the new tail light. And then we should be good to go. So let's get to that. So once the seat's off, you're gonna wanna take the side panel off. That way you can actually get to the wire harness connectors for the tail. If you're like me and you have a top rack here, you're gonna also need to undo those bolts. Unfortunately, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? If you don't have a top rack, not a problem. You're just right in there and you can see the wiring harness. Now that I got those off the bike, we can actually get to the wiring harness. So let me show you what that looks like. So these 3 wires here are the ones you're gonna need. Main one is your brake light, and then these 2 are your turn signals. So we wanna disconnect those, and then we wanna feed them back through the back of the fender here. And then with that, we're gonna be able to pull this rear fender off and not have anything hanging onto the bike. So once we get them through that hole, we do have a reusable wire tie holding them to the subframe, so we gotta get that off as well. Which might be a little of a pain depending on where it is on your bike, but it comes off, and put that to the side because you're still gonna want that. Now once we're done with this step, we're actually going to take this rear fender off. So like I said, you're gonna need a 10mm socket and a 8mm socket. There's both sides bolts holding this on. A little bit of a pain, but it is what it is. So it turns out it's actually a 7mm socket, not an 8mm socket for the remaining bolts here. So, my bad. And that's it. Rear fender is off. And as I was taking this out, actually a spacer dropped, so just keep an eye on that. There's some spacers for the top bolts there. Now that the tail's off, I'm actually gonna get the turn signals off and mount it onto the new low profile fender that's taking its place. One other thing is there's some retaining clips here. Those are good to remove because you're not gonna need them and you don't want them flying off and hitting someone on the road. That's never fun. All right, once those are added on, it should look like this, and be sure you remember which one is left and which one is right so you hook them up in the correct order. The other thing is you're gonna wanna keep the nuts that come with the turn signals because you're gonna need them to secure them back onto this new mount. Now, the only last thing I need to do is actually wire in the brake light to the existing wiring harness. So what I'm gonna do is clip the end off of it, splice the cables in, and then we'll be able to plug it right back in to the receptacle on the other side. All right, so got the wiring harness all done on here, and time to attach this to the bike. Just gonna reuse 2 of those same 10mm bolts, and it's gonna go right on the end of the subframe here. Nice and easy. Now, maybe a little hard once you get everything installed in here to get a socket wrench in there, which is why I have one of my ratcheting wrenches. All right, now that that's in, let's get the wiring harness through the subframe here. We're also gonna reuse this cable tie that we took off and then thread these connectors right back through the hole in the side here. Now we've got everything back through. We'll reattach the connectors and turn the key on. Test it out, look at that. It's on. I hit the brakes, it gets brighter, beautiful. We'll just double check the turn signals still work. Left turn signal's good. Right turn signal's good. And I call that a successful install. So as you can see, it's nice and low profile here. I gotta put my plate on still, but it looks a whole lot nicer than that big ass Fender did. Now, one important thing for you to note, for any of you thinking of replacing your rear fender with this specific Fender eliminator kit, you're going to have to splice the wires for the brake light into your existing wiring harness. It's not that hard to do, but you need to know the pinout. This particular Fender eliminator did not come with a wiring diagram, so I had to figure it out on my own. Lucky for you, you don't have to. On your DRZ, you've got 3 wires for the rear brake light. One of them is solid black with a white stripe. One of them is gray. And the last one is solid white with a black stripe. The solid black with a white stripe is your ground. That gray one is your running light, so it's when the tail light's on continuously during normal operation. And that final one, the white with the black stripe, is going to be your brake light. Now, your mileage may vary depending on which brake light you have, but on the one I have, the pinout for it is the black wire is your ground, the red wire is your running light, and the green wire is your brake light. That being said, I think this install was a great success, and I can't wait to get some pictures of the bike out there on the trails. Until next time, ride safe.